Good morning. We're sorry we're late. Deb is coming. We had this thing where nothing was connecting today. It's that kind of Friday. So, welcome to the Friday group chat with Jill and Deb. And Deb is here, and we are live. And it's been that kind of week. It's been so the week. And there was just last night and this morning so much loss on the eastern half of our country, and it's continuing to our friends in Asheville and Georgia and the places that are currently experiencing active flooding and dams failing. Wow, we are sitting with you, my friends in Florida. For those who don't know, I did live in Florida for 10 years. I did my master's there. I have many dear friends there, and they've had lots of loss overnight that they absolutely weren't expecting. Um, and then on top of that, Deb has lost a dear friend this week, and I lost my Uncle Gene yesterday. It's been that week.
It's been that week.
We just take a breath.
And remember, I talk about tapping right here and rubbing with about 2 pounds of pressure and
Yeah,
just breathe in everybody that is with us, that will be with us, that's listening. Breathe in and just say, I'm okay.
and I can get through this because if I've gotten through the hardest part, I can certainly get through the recovery.
That's that's right. You just
Yeah.
put one foot in front of the other. Both Jill and I have been through devastation in our lives with property lost and lives lost for many, many reasons. And if we're anything, we're an example to you that right now, everything that is overwhelming, everything that feels like part of you died, it's because part of you did. We're here to affirm that reality and know you can still walk through it. I don't know how long that takes for anybody. I'm not in charge of that department. And so,
After something like a Mother Nature devastation, takes a long time to feel like I can count on being safe.
yes,
Which is similar to any other kind of mass loss or even just a personal death loss or any of
right.
that. But when the floor gets ripped out from under you,
Literally.
when houses float away and then catch fire, that it's just another whole level of how do I ever know I'm going to be secure again? And that's when you see people going, well, I want to live where there's no floods. Okay, but then there's tornadoes. Okay, I don't want tornadoes, but that means earthquakes. I don't want earthquakes, but that means fire. There really is no place that's really guaranteed
A
safety,
hundred proof.
but you can make it feel like home again.
Right.
If you have to rebuild, you can make home again. It's not
Exactly.
the same home.
No, it's never the same.
And there are
It's
financially devastating consequences too, and we're
and
both very aware of that.
I closest to our house, this was more than a decade ago, there was a tornado that ripped through Urbana. I mean, just flattened all the houses like you see on any TV show
Mhm.
or news, skipped over St. Joe and devastated Ogden, a small town on the other side. I mean, you drive down what we call 150, a
Mhm.
small 2-lane road, right? And FEMA trucks lined it for at least a mile because, I mean, and it's weird. And then there's all the news stories that go with that. So there's news trucks, and eventually they leave, and people are left. Not only have they lost everything, literally, and then they have to deal with insurance and people they mean to be kind, but they're not always as kind because they're frustrated with the information given to them from their business, et cetera, et cetera. And it takes a long time. And I'm, I am beginning to think that everything takes 18 months to sort out. A lot of times when you're getting divorced, plan on 18 months of divvying up stuff. Someone dies, 18 months while you
Minimum.
go through their stuff, at least 18 months. A disaster happens, insurance, 18 months, you know.
And there are people in Florida who just got hit who still hadn't managed to finish the claims from the last hurricane
That's right.
because that state's insurance programming is a mess. So
So,
it's a really hard time, and so whether it's a personal loss, a person loss, and anything loss,
yeah,
breathe.
yeah.
Yeah, I knew this morning I was feeling it when the first thing I spied to put on was my comfy zip up sweatshirt because
Yeah,
that's my okay, soft shirt, zip up sweatshirt, hoodie.
exactly.
I'm ready for
Exactly.
okay, I can just relax into it all, right? Do you
Uh,
have a favorite? It's going to be a difficult day kind of a shirt.
I have several,
Mhm.
and I did put one on, and then I got too warm, and but I got to meet up with a friend this morning for breakfast. But what's the first thing I did? I know better, so I made me some coffee to get to the coffee with my friend.
Mhm.
And uh, 3 days ago, the lots of winds and storms, and so when you sleep with the CPAP and you hear ee, and that is the CPAP shutting off because there's a power outage, and then you can't breathe, right? Because you're covered up in this, and you go, and
Right.
then it came right back on, and then it went off, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and that's an hour earlier than I usually get up. But I made sure I got up and boiled hot water so I could have it for my pour over coffee because I was going to have coffee if all the power went out, but I can't plug things in, right? So, but we have a gas stove, and I made sure my coffee was made. It was
That's what's important.
that I'm like, I'm taking care of myself at 6 a.m. And then the cat can have everything that he wanted, right?
Mhm.
So it was pretty funny. Um, one of the reasons I didn't sleep well is because a dear friend died. I saw her family posted on Facebook, and this person, it's not that I lost touch, but um, some of their mental health issues were um, sort of hard for me. And when she was healthier, we did a lot of things together for church, our family, our girls, her child and my child, and two other creative folks when they were in high school. They traveled Europe. You know, everybody made sure not to tell me that traveling Europe meant no, the parents of where they were going were not going to take them. They were going to be traveling solo over several countries, just taking the trains. And I never knew about that. And so she laughed and said, yeah, yeah. But it was so, I mean, I just love Lisa. Um and her particular mental health issues were not manageable for a long time, and it was just difficult. And so I was with her a lot through that, and then I backed off. And I don't regret backing off.
Mhm.
It's I
It was a
wish
necessity.
it was. And then I hadn't had the chance to jump back in. She and I taught at the homeless shelter together.
Oh my
Sort of,
gosh.
we did I mean, we volunteered there for 5 years. I think we took like a 6-month break. Somebody else did it, and then
Mhm.
we went back in and did it. And we did volunteer stuff for our church together. She taught me about being a clown.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
and one of the best things, I know clowns don't usually talk about this, but I did a gig on my own, and the clown that was there was a little uppity. That was not their clown name, but they were um, telling me what to do and what not to do. And it was like, for instance, at the end of the picnic where we were, they said we could uh, take food home because there was a lot of stuff and we had done a bunch of stuff there. And so the other clown said, "Oh, I'm taking things home for the elephants and for the orangutans and for this." And I was not that kind of clown. So I said, "Oh, I'm taking things home for my stepson who eats constantly." And I told my friend Lisa all about this person that kept saying my costume wasn't good enough. I didn't talk right. I didn't do this right. And she said, "Do you want me to beat that other clown and not with a rubber bat?" I mean, that was Lisa, and so creative. And she had a cardiac arrest and died. And she was 5 years younger than I. She would have been 5 years younger. I
Oh
mean,
my
yeah,
goodness.
so she was 62, and her birthday's in a couple weeks. So it was really hard.
Mhm.
And another guest, and it's always a shock when you find out on Facebook, right? I
It
don't know why
is.
that's more shocking than reading it in the newspaper, but it's more shocking for me on Facebook,
Mhm. On social media, yeah.
on social media. Uh, and then Nancy, who's going to be our guest here in October, I
Mhm.
think the second or third week, we'll talk
Mhm.
about it. Nancy Weil is one of the I think she's the only person that used to do laughter clubs
Mm.
or her grief groups in a cemetery. And so she had a very unique niche,
Mhm.
and she spoke about humor and laughter to funeral directors all over the world. She lives in the path of Hurricane Helene. And she sent pictures on social media last night. She kept saying, "We're okay because we're higher up." But you go down, maybe they walked. I think she was on the second or third floor. I don't remember. But down below, she
They
was up
weren't.
to it. No, their cars were up to the windows,
Mhm.
and she was, up to her thighs in water. And I'm like,
Don't
"Don't
go
walk in
into that water. There's fire ants floating and snakes and gas and
Anyway, she put that all out, and we saw right away what was happening. I haven't seen pictures today because I went out so early and I just haven't checked social media like that. But I'll probably talk to our Fort Myers family. No, they don't live in Fort Myers, they live in Naples. And
I've got friends in St. Pete who
yeah,
started horrendous losses last night,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
morning, and friends in Asheville who are currently cowering from high winds and trees coming down and flood coming, and they just announced a dam had, was breaking on a Weather Channel. So,
Oh,
how do we get people to center right now, Deb, who have woken up to this, who are listening to this afterward, and are going, now what do I do? Or those who are here or where you are watching it there, and we
you know,
can't do anything, but we need to do something.
you know, when you feel like you cannot there when you feel there is nothing left to do, whatever you say is your faith, or if you're atheist, or if you're agnostic, or it doesn't matter, in even imagining those people that you care about, just
Mhm.
imagining them and imagining the word love. You can imagine, like when someone is in the hospital, if you can imagine a pink light. Pink is very healing, so is green, but putting, imagine those things. And I, your feelings that you have are overwhelming 100% of the time. That's what feelings do. They flood your body, they make chemical changes, and it's hard to focus. Once again, what we tell a lot of people with high anxiety is breathe. We've learned box breathing from a few of our guests, right? So you can do box breathing. What's box breathing? You breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you start the cycle again. So you can breathe, because if you're worried about something, that means you're alive. We forget that. Things become overwhelmed. And the other thing, I'm going to move this just for a second so you can see. Yes, it says I arted. And so I was gifted this t-shirt. So right on your sternum, there's probably a tender place. Put about 2 pounds of pressure and just rub that as a grounding technique. Because maybe where you're at, you're with water. This is all very difficult when you are in the middle of it. But if you're worried about friends and family, if you don't know what to do, because right now, just letting some things play out, you can't rush in if you don't know what tools to bring, right? A tool, and once you get a hold of them, is saying, I love you. I'm sending out thoughts or prayers of safety. Um, can I send you money? Can I, through this or this, do you need a place to stay if that's something you can do? Uh, do you want me to take your pets? Where are your pets? So, but that's not, unless it's just today and they're in their car, 100 miles away, you would be on the phone with them. They would be on the phone with you. And a lot of places, when there's a disaster, there is no cell service.
Right. It
So,
looks to me like we've got probably temporary cell towers going up already in the disaster zones, but you're
mhm,
right, there is so much that's missing, and we can't get to those who are in the zones and help the
mhm.
kitties that are there, but
Mhm.
we can send PetSmart and Costco cards and Target cards
Mhm.
and all those things. We can do that. And
Mhm.
if you are someone who employs people in those areas, let
Right.
them go home, let them stay home, let them figure it out. They need a little bit of time to breathe.
Right. Right.
And if you're in those zones, ask for help. Just like if
Yeah.
you were the friends of Deb's who just lost a loved one,
Right.
when there's a death in the family, people want to help and they don't know what to do. Right? My uncle who just died lived in a beautiful ALF with his wife. They have meals 3 times a day. We sent flowers when he was very sick. What do we do? You know what we're doing? We're sending soup in a box.
Oh,
It's
I
a
just saw
wonderful
that recently.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And that came to me when I was COVIDing long ago. 2 containers of soup and some muffins and cookies and a happy thought and a journal.
Mhm.
And you know what? At least it feels like a hug sort of from someplace else.
Mhm.
But if you are needing to pull out all the wallboard, you probably need a couple of gift cards from Ace or from
Home Depot,
um,
not Lowe's,
Lowe's.
Menards. Yeah.
Mhm. Any of those places, because you're going to be needing some supplies, and insurance companies aren't going to come through right now.
And you don't have to send an actual gift card. A lot of times you
You can
can
do it
do things
electronic.
electronically because
Mhm.
guess what? They probably don't have a laptop. I mean, they may have their laptop. Most likely they have their phone.
And they can
And
use it on their phone.
and the second part is they might not be at that address.
Mhm. And multiple post offices are now closed.
Yes. And as in the case here, not far away from here in Urbana, they held up the post office person that goes to deliver mail in that particular area was robbed of the keys that go to the boxes. So
Oh
they've
my
had
god.
to stop all mail. They'll have to re put in new locks, put in new stuff. And those people, not everybody could get to the post office.
Right.
So to pick up mail. So
Mhm.
it's a it's a pain. So just do the best you can. If you need ideas, call. I mean,
Message us, put
message.
something up.
Yeah.
And if you have good ideas, post them on our page for other
Yes,
people to see.
please.
If you're
Please.
listening to this, you can find us at Humor, Grace, and Grief on Facebook, or you
Right.
can put in Facebook Friday Grief Chat and it'll come up on our page.
Right.
And you can, if folks have ideas or places or groups that need donations, please post them. I know
Mhm.
there are lots of pet rescues who are going to need support.
Mhm.
Usually after a disaster, when the DVETs get there from the National Disaster Team, pets
Mhm.
that have been lost get flown out to other shelters just to get them out of the way and keep them fed and dry. So
Right.
and this is an agricultural part of our country, so there are going to be lots of folks with farms who need assistance. This
Mhm.
is the time to let people grieve, but also step in, not step back, step in,
Mhm.
not in an intrusive way, not to tell someone how to do it, not to tell them what they should do, but you know what? Want to here's something for Lowe's. You can go get whatever you need, even if
Or
it's just a mop.
a lot of times, and I remember this from what devastated New Orleans, Katrina.
Yes.
Wasn't it Katrina?
That's where my wife was for 10 months.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
And a lot of people didn't have certain medicines.
Mhm.
And so they came up to Illinois. It's a 14-hour to Champaign from New
Mhm.
Orleans and 14-hour drive. And also the train, City of New Orleans, comes straight here to Champaign. And we had a lot of people. I was working in alcohol drug rehab. People who were in rehab there came up to our rehab. People who needed medicine came up. And many of us just gave money to get medicine. They could get their uh, meds transferred, but it was rough.
Now, for those in disaster zones, the DMATs should be being deployed already. And the DMATs carry a lot with them, and they have access to services. If you're in a disaster zone, even if you're still at home, if you've had damage, register when you can get out on the road again or when there are computers again, so that the federal government knows that you've had damage, because
What
that puts you in line for federal funding sometimes.
what is so D stands for deployed. What is
No,
what is
it's the National Disaster Medical Team, National Disaster Veterinary Team, and my guess is there might be a need for the National Disaster Mortuary Team.
got it.
We also have FEMA that goes out,
Yes.
which is part right now, I think, of DHSS, Department of Health and Human Services. But wherever there's a place to register, make sure you do, because otherwise you slip further down the list for help.
Right.
Right? And if you're in an area that's flooding and you're staying home, make sure folks know you are. But if you evacuate, make sure that the evacuation centers know where you've gone. You
Right.
can take pets with you to hotels. You can take pets with you to disaster zones, evacuation centers.
Yeah. Jill has those fire and allergy cough.
You know, the fires came back here yesterday.
Yes.
We had the line fire is still burning, and the hot spots all flared up with just the right. And our firemen were watching it, and they were right on top of it, but it's still smoky again today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it is that time, and I'm going to start choking. I'm going to let you take us out.
Okay. You know, I want to thank people for whoever can be on here now, who will listen to our podcast. I appreciate the support that Jill and I have gotten over the last 4 years. We have done this officially over 4 years. And if you have any ideas for future programs or things that you want to learn about, Jill and I can research it, look it up, or if we know somebody, we bring them on. And like I said, thank you, Steve. We wish you a good weekend. This is the last weekend in September, and then it's all things, well,
It's
my
pumpkin
Halloween
spice time.
pumpkin spice if you're into it, or Halloween if you're into it. But definitely, I found some new jokes and stuff, and I've definitely put them on my page. It's just the puns are perfect.
And
So,
for those listening in Australia, welcome to spring.
yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I was listening to what's her name? Joe Muirhead. Yes, yesterday. So she's in Australia, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And they're defrosting now for winter and heading into summer.
that's right. That's right.
All right,
All
everybody.
right,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Be well, and we'll see you next week.
And Deb, I'll be thinking of you and your losses. Bye, everybody.
Same about your uncle. Bye bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.